Hello, all. This is your horror host, Inkarnate, fresh from the theater, hot on the scene, to give you my reaction video. My, excuse me, sorry, it's still cold out. My AfterShock to having just seen the movie Whistle. One thing I do need to mention is that it was a little too jump scare heavy. I mean, my God, there are scenes that I'm covering my ear during the watch, not because I'm terrified, not because I'm on the edge of my seat, but it's just like, oh man, I'm like, dude, I could really do with a whole lot less volume in this movie. Just a bit too much on the jump scare side, and I really hate jump scares. I felt that the twist, the impression or the nuance that the film gave us in the type of scenario, the type of form of death that we were going to be treated to, that the characters would have to confront. I did wonder in my movie preview to this, in my precaution, I'm saying to myself, I am curious as to what form death will take, if it'll just be a generic monster or zombie that is what kills each of the teenagers. I am happy to say that the twist or the spin that this movie takes with death is interesting and unique. I can give it credit for that. Now, one thing I noticed with Daphne Keene's character, usually when you have a teen that goes more serious, the whole "I'm so over it" route, think Zendaya's MJ from the Spider-Man movies. You run the risk of just making a walking, resting bitch face. But I gotta give it up to Daphne Keene because she's able to pull it off without being a bore or without being someone that's just obnoxious and you don't want to spend like any time with her just because she's so sullen. But she managed to pull it off with some level of gravitas, dare I say, with some hint that there's something behind the whole teenage angst portrayal to her character. Now, having said that, one thing that I could have dealt with more of is the cast camaraderie. I feel like whenever you do a movie like this, or just with teens in general, it's a tightrope that you walk of how the characters play off of each other versus teen cliche. One of the reasons why the characters of Scream, the original, are so iconic to the point that the film sequels themselves brought back legacy characters is because you would have unique portrayals of each of these, and I don't want to call them stock characters, but each of the different teens, you can tell them apart. Not just that, the way they play off of each other is key. And this movie definitely has, I want to say, 3 of the 5 stereotypes that were shown in the movie Cabin in the Woods, where you have the sleut, the scholar, the jock, the virgin. Wait, what was the other one? The party animal, the comedic relief. So, the fool. So, this movie has 3 of the 5, and the third one, not just the pretty girl. I wouldn't say she's promiscuous or anything. But I'd like to focus on the comedic relief and the jock. To me, there were flashes of intrigue with the comedic relief. I really wanted to see more interplay between Daphne Keene and the more jovial cousin that she had. I thought her more serious Wednesday Addams take on her character mashed well with his Richie Tozer type of humor. I really wish we would have gotten more of that. I thought that they played off of each other well, and even then, with the comedic relief, you run the risk so many times of, and I was very careful to mention the type of humor that I got from this particular character because it reminded me of the nerdy funny kid from It Chapter 1. Even then, honestly, how many times have we seen characters that are just they have the opposite effect when they try to be the funny bone of the movie. Instead, they're just grating on the nerves. I am happy to say that I was worried that the cousin was going to be that character, but I am happy to report that the times that he is comedic, he's pretty funny without being annoying. So I wish that they would have stuck to that. Obviously, give him a little bit more depth than that. But in addition to his own character development, I would have liked to have seen his interplay with his cousin because I said to myself watching this, all right, this could be something. Unfortunately, like I said, the points where we get interesting characters, it's like flashes of intrigue instead of consistency. And in that regard, the jock is just a complete one-dimensional cliche. There's no real depth to him. And no, the scene where he's being pursued by his own harbinger of death, no, that's not enough to... The scenes where he's reacting to his own mortality, that's not enough to give you character depth. And it would have been interesting if like you had pockets of friend groups like two at a time that cross paths, and then they became because of this haunting relic that they found, that they're able to begin their interplay with each other there, instead of this already being an established group of friends. Missed opportunity. But yeah, the jock unfortunately was just very one-dimensional. And whereas there were points of intrigue, flashes of intrigue with other characters, him more so was just flashes of annoyance than anything else. They could have had it where he is like the protector, where he feels, and why not do that, to be honest? Like, why not have it where the jock obviously is protective of his girlfriend? There's nothing wrong with that. But what if he is like at first he might be annoyed by the comic relief. He may take a liking to him, and who knows what if by the end of the movie or by the middle of the movie the comic relief is something of a sidekick for the jock. Just saying, just spitballing. I'm sorry to say that the main love interest for the movie falls into that trap of the nice girl being boring. You have to, whenever you're showing a love interest, it's imperative that the audience as well take a liking to them. It's almost like the audience is falling in love with this particular character as well. Again, another missed opportunity. Speaking of, I thought that the elder character in the film could have played an interesting pseudo mentor, like an unwilling caretaker for the children, that while she's attempting at first not just to guide the kids through this horror, but she feels her own mortality slipping, and she inadvertently imparts her own wisdom about life, knowing that she's on borrowed time. Again, because I'm a critic, I do have this habit of writing a story in my mind if the one in general, but especially if the story that I'm watching, if the movie that I'm watching, it doesn't quite live up to snuff. So, like I said, I was right about there being unique avatars of death. I don't want to spoil it, but the twist that this movie does with its portrayal of death is different than something like a Final Destination. And I'm glad they didn't go down that route, because they could have very easily done so. And I'm happy to say that I did guess one of the ways in which the teens could prevent this or stop this death loop from getting to the remaining survivors, I did guess that in my precaution video. However, it reminded me more of all things, the Evil Dead remake instead of anything from Final Destination. And that's a boon for this movie because you don't, while you're attempting to present something new for audiences, you don't want to run into copying and pasting other people's work, namely the Final Destination movies, because you know that those movies came out of the Scream movies and or the Scream teen fad, and it's really best to just carve your own path when you're attempting to present something new. So the challenge with the type of horror that each character confronts is creating new death scenarios. Unfortunately, these aren't easily apparent when the teenagers are confronting what otherwise looks like corpses. So it presents a unique concept, does the story, but it doesn't deliver as well as it can. It would have been good if, instead of trying to interpret what it is that the each character is looking at when they see what's coming for them, it would have been good if the makeup department had portrayed these corpses in a way where the corpses themselves tell their story. You know what I mean? Telling a story through the makeup, and the audience would have been able to guess how it is that the demise of these characters will befall them. So I do hope that someone does revisit this idea with a sequel and they're able to shore up the breaches in the hull, because I do think on paper there is a unique premise here. It's just, unfortunately, the execution, pun intended, is what was found lacking, and that's where this film came up short. The film didn't get as much mileage as it could have from its characters, and like I've said throughout this reaction video, the way that the characters could have played off of each other was, you know, they had flashes of intrigue. They had a good thing going with the cousin, with the humor. I just wish that they would have carried that over more. You would have seen much more levity brought by the comedic relief as compared to the seriousness of Daphne Keene. And I wish that it would have been much more consistent with the rest of the cast. So, unfortunately, I don't generally give ratings, but I'd have to give this one a C plus, if anything. Again, good premise, let down by the execution. So again, but having said that, I do hope for someone along the way to revisit this, give it a fresh coat of painting, fix up what needs fixing up, and then be able to reach this story's potential. So that's pretty much it for me. So now let's get to the ending here. So, what is on the scene for the Mind's Eye Inquisition and the Greater Mind's Eye? So, this is a 4-part package of movie previews as well as reaction videos that I've done in the last 4 weeks. I'm happy to say that there has been a consistent, I can't remember another time in the past 5 years that I've been doing this where there have been 5 straight weeks of horror movies. This is the fourth one, fourth straight week of horror films. Unfortunately, they haven't been great. I wish that they had been, but I am happy that the genre is getting some kind of recognition. I'm, of course, referring to the precaution and aftershocks of 28 years later, the Bone Temple. Then it was Return to Silent Hill. Last week was Markiplier's Iron Lung. This week was Daphne Keene's Whistle. And then next week will be Gale, Yellow Brick Road. So I'll be doing a reaction video to that as well. And now let's discuss what as far as coming attractions, what we have. So the trailer for the Mummy movie, the Lee Cronin's Mummy movie, dropped recently, and I want to be able to do a gut reaction to the trailer. So that's what I have in the pipeline. I do invite all of you to take a look at the videos that I mentioned before, precautions and aftershocks for those 4 movies. The 28 years later, The Bone Temple, Return to Silent Hill, Iron Lung, and the precaution to tonight's movie, Whistle. And additionally, I did a watch party for the 20th anniversary of Silent Hill. So I hope you will take a watch for that and use my commentary as a second screen experience. Earlier this week, I did a reaction video to the article that Bloody Disgusting had written on Alice Krige, who plays the Borg Queen in Star Trek. She was in the Silent Hill film as well as other horror films. It's Alice Krige Fearography, A Career of Fear. I hope that you'll take a look at that. And on Monday, I posted a video on my where I believe that Silent Hill ranks in horror. So that's been it for me. I've given you plenty of content to enjoy. And I'm here in my send-off reminding you, I've been Inkarnate reminding you, I ain't just a big deal, I'm the real deal.
If you're resigned to your fate, time to subscribe to your fears.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.